Hi, Inspire to Study viewers. Welcome to our Facebook Live event where we're going to discuss how to find what you need in your study materials. Do you ever get the feeling that sometimes you're reading an article, a case study, or something for your academic work and you read it and at the end of it, you just don't quite get it? Um, so just what do you need to do when that happens? Well, I think you should wind back a little bit. And what you really need to think about is why am I actually reading this piece of work and what am I intended to get out of it? And it's really important to think about those things before you start reading because it will make your reading more effective. Now, I think you should have a plan before you start reading, and I call it the 5 W's. So, one of the important things that you have to really sort of focus on is what on earth is happening in this article or this case study that I'm reading. It's important to understand the story. If you don't understand the story, then really the effectiveness of your reading is going to be lost. So, first W is what happened. So, just on a very broad, basic level, you need to clearly understand that. The second and important W is who was there. So, it's important to understand all the key players in the story, in the plot, and to understand how they're related to each other. So, what happened? Who was there? Second W. Third W, where did all of this happen? Where is sometimes really important. Is it something that's the setting where an event or occurrence happens is really quite important. So, where, what happened, who was there, and where did it happen? Now you feel like a private detective. Okay, so you've got your 3 W's. Next thing to think about is why did it happen? Why did the event happen in the way that it did? Often this is going to lead you down some questions and answers about liability and who's responsible, but it's important to ask why something happened. Okay, so you've got your 4 W's. What happened? Who was there? Where did it happen? And why did it happen? Okay, why did it happen? Important. Your 5th W is what am I supposed to do? So, this is your task and your reading to work out what you are supposed to do in this task. Do you have to write an analysis of what you've read? Do you have to give someone advice? Do you have to work out who is responsible for whatever happened? Or are you there to just produce some sort of summary? So the 5 W's are always going to get you out of trouble. So, what happened? Who was there? Where did it happen? Why did it happen? And what do you have to do? When you've got the 5 W's, you're going to be able to understand whatever you're reading and work out why, what happened, when, who was there, and what your task is. Now, do I have any questions? Because I know that some people, when they're reading, they really have difficulty staying focused. Now, part of being able to work out your 5 W's is that you have to stay focused when you're reading. If you're not focused, if you're looking at your phone, if you're distracted by your notifications, if you're listening to your music, then it's very easy to lose some of the information that you're skimming over. So you miss what happened, you miss who was there, you miss where it happened. The detail is important in your reading, and in order to get all of that detail, you need to put things aside. So turn off the phone, turn off your notifications, turn off your music, and just spend some quality time focusing on what you're reading. So 15-20 minutes of focused reading is much better than spending 40 minutes really not focused on what you're doing and doing lots of other different tasks. So, do we have any questions at the moment? So we've got one question. Hi, Suzanne, how are you? Hi, Jay, nice to hear from you. The question that Jay has is that when I'm reading, I sometimes lose focus and get interested in other things. Okay, Jay. Well, we come back to the important thing. If you're going to give yourself a task to do and you want it to be effective, you can only do one task at a time. And you have to make sure that you're in the right frame of mind to do that task. If you're not in the mood to study, then you won't study effectively. So, what I suggest is you find a place where you work really well, you make your environment comfortable, and you focus and decide how long you're going to focus for. Some people can focus for an hour, other people half an hour, some people 20 minutes. Whatever works for you, focus and agree at the start. You're going to focus on what you're reading for the next 20 minutes. At the end of the 20 minutes, get up and have a break. If you focus intensely, you will find that your mind doesn't wander and that you can work out your 5 W's. What happened? Where did it happen? Who was there? Why did it happen? And what are you supposed to do about it? Okay, thanks very much, Jay, for sending us that comment. Oh, we have another comment here from Deborah. Deborah says, I often start off reading the first couple of paragraphs quite well, and then I find I've got to the end of whatever I'm reading and I can't remember what happened in the beginning. Okay, so this is really about focus again. Focusing is something that you can improve, and I suggest that if you're somebody who starts reading an article and by the end of it you can't remember what the first couple of paragraphs were about, it's probably a good idea to take notes as you do your reading so that it's active, it's making you summarize and think about what you've just read. So every time you read a paragraph, you put a bullet point note down about what that paragraph dealt with. As you get to the end of the article, you should then have a list of bullet points, which you can just reflect back on and see what the article dealt with at each main paragraph. And that can sometimes really help you to stay on track and stay focused. Thanks very much for that question, Deborah. Okay. Oh, great. We have another question from Cal. Cal says, I quite often am able to work out what's happened and who's there, but I'm really lost about why, and that's the problem I have. Okay, so sometimes I think that students really overcomplicate things. If you just ask yourself at the most basic level, what happened? Two people had an argument, there was a fight, someone's been arrested, and somebody has been charged with an offence. At the most basic level, who was there? You know the two people that were there. Why did it happen? Okay, then you start to look at the dynamics of what went on before the fight started. You start to look at who maybe threw the first punch, who was the aggressor, did anybody try to walk away, who intervened, and you start to then apply your understanding of the law of self-defense. Maybe you start to apply your knowledge of the criminal law on the different offences that people commit. It's really interesting that once you start to ask yourself on that very basic level, why did this happen? Your knowledge of the law should start to suggest to you potential defences that the defendant may allege, that may be self-defence, or potential offences a party may have committed. So we think about the criminal offence of assault, grievous bodily harm, and you're on a very, very basic level. Try not to make it overcomplicated. Then as you work through the fact pattern and you get more detail, you can build on that detailed legal knowledge. But in the early stages, I'd just say keep it simple. Why did it happen? It should scream out to you immediately a particular offence or a particular defence that your client may want to use. Thanks, Cal, for that message. We have another message here from Sharon. Sharon says, I'm really good at really being focused and reading. My problem is that when I've read for an hour, I find that I can't really focus. And and I start to get distracted when I start to do my writing. I'm never quite sure what I should start writing about. Okay, so yes, reading is part of the exercise. And then once you've done your reading, you're going to do some notes, and then maybe you're going to write an essay. Now, that's three very distinct phases. If you're reading in order to get the information of what happened, then you're going to move to the stage where you, at the same time as reading, you may have taken some notes, or you may read and then take notes. Then you want to write your essay. Well, sometimes there's another stage that you have to go through. It's not simply just reading and writing the essay. There's a stage where you have to do a bit of research. Your knowledge of the law may not be good enough for you to write your essay at that stage. So first of all, you've got to find out what happened, where, when, who, why. Then you've got to make some notes, and then you may have to go and do some research and improve your understanding of the law in the areas that you've identified in your initial reading. Once you've done that, writing your essay is going to be a lot easier. If you try to miss out the research bit and you're not familiar with that area of law, then you're going to find that you struggle with writing the essay. You find you don't know where to start, you don't know what to say. That's because you don't have the research knowledge on the area of law to put together the facts that you've read in your case study with your knowledge of law. So you really have to be honest with yourself. Don't miss out that important research stage. If you're struggling to identify legal defences or possible offences, or if it's a civil case, what the cause of action is, that suggests that you don't have a strong understanding of the law. So you might be able to work out, in this particular case study, this is about somebody who's gone onto someone's land and they're a trespasser. If you don't understand the Occupiers Liability Act, you won't know what the duties of an occupier is, or the landowner. You won't know what the obligations are if they have trespassers on their property. You have to go and read that. When you have that knowledge, you then will be able to write that essay. So I would say, Sharon, thanks. Just take the time to go and do a little bit of research. Having read your case papers, put your papers to one side, go off and do some research on the area of law, and then come back to just maybe doing an outline for your essay plan, and then thinking about writing your essay. And you'll find actually writing the essay will be so much easier after that. Okay, right. Do we have any questions? Okay, we've got one from Jess, and Jess says, thanks, Suzanne. Great to see you. Thank you, Jess. What do you advise for people who find it really difficult to work out the plot in a complicated case analysis story? Okay, so sometimes we get very simple stories that we have to analyze and write essays about. Sometimes the story is really difficult and it's too difficult to keep in our head. So it's really important, Jess, that when you're reading, you're also taking notes and you're working out what happens. And sometimes it's really good to do diagrams just to get things fixed into your mind as to how something happened. When we're reading, we need to paint that picture for ourselves to make it easier to understand. And if you're a person who likes things visually, I definitely recommend that you draw diagrams, that you do a map, you do a flow chart, whatever it is that really works for you. It's really good to do that. Yes, it's good to read, but when we read, we interpret that information by drawing plans, diagram, mind maps, whatever it is that works for you. And it will make it much more effective than trying to keep it all in your head, because that's when you get confused, you lose the details. I always think as well, if you've got a very complicated fact pattern, it's really important to do a chronology of what happened. So key dates, key things that happen, so that you can look at that chronology and get a broader perspective of the events rather than reading them in a statement or in some papers. Okay. Thanks. We've got a question here. Do you have any courses to improve drafting skills? that you want to learn from. Okay, so great, thank you, Zeenab. Yes, I do have some drafting courses. I have spent time designing drafting courses that I hope are really easy to understand. It's videos, and at the end of each video there's a little task for you to do, and then you practice a bit of drafting, a bit of case analysis, you read your paper, so you work out what's important. You then practice drafting a particular claim, and at the end of it, we talk about how you drafted and compare it with a sample particular claim that I've drafted. And as I always say to students, if you need to write an essay, draft something, the best thing to do is to practice essay writing and drafting, because they are skills that get better the more that you practice. What are the best courses for learning legal drafting? Well, I would say pop along to one of my courses. They're short, they're concise, they're not stuffy like reading a law textbook or a law drafting book. As I said, they're short, concise videos to help you learn practical drafting tips, and to make sure that at the end of it, you go through a case study and understand from very beginning to the end the importance of doing your case analysis, working out your structure, how you draft, and then we actually go through and discuss all of the elements of drafting, why I drafted in a certain way, where various clauses are put in, and what the impact is. So I think it's really good if you want a bit of drafting practice to go along and do a drafting course. Books to improve my writing skills. Yes, you could try How to Write a First Class Essay by Suzanne Rees, myself. It's easy. It's meant for you to read the book with your feet up over a weekend, and then to put in place some of the drafting skills that I go through in the book. It's not stodgy. It has pictures and little diagrams, and it really helps you to understand the basics of good, effective essay writing. If you're on a legal course, then you might like to have a look at my opinion writing book, which is all about how to write a legal opinion. And in that, I go through 10 reasons why students don't write an outstanding opinion. And then I tell you what you should do to make sure that you don't fall into those steps, so that at the end of it, we have 10 steps to help you write a brilliant opinion. And legal opinion writing can be complicated, but in this book, again, I try to write in a way that students will understand. It's easy. I don't want to make your life any more complicated. So it has some diagrams. It should be easy to understand, and it's fun. At the end of the day, who wants to read a boring book? I don't, and I'm sure you don't at the weekend. So I would say How to Write a First Class Essay, 10 reasons you didn't write an outstanding opinion. And if you're about to do a dissertation for your master's, then I have the perfect book for you. I decided that lots of students were choosing their dissertation project, and they weren't really thinking about the criteria on which that project was going to be marked. And if you don't think about the criteria on which your dissertation is going to be marked, then there is a possibility that you choose a subject or a topic that's not going to maximize the grades that you can get. And if you're going to spend all that time doing a dissertation, you of course want to get the best grade. So I sat down and wrote LMN dissertation, how to maximize your marks. And it's aimed at law students who are doing a postgraduate dissertation that they often do after they've done their professional qualifications. So it has to be quite often practically focused on legal skills that they're about to go into. And in the book, I set out all of the steps that you need to take before you choose your dissertation topic, and how you get to choosing your dissertation topic if you're confused or you're not certain about what topic you should choose. And by the end of the book, you have a good idea about what topic you should do, how it's going to maximize your marks by choosing that topic, and you also have a good understanding of what the process of writing that dissertation is going to be. Too often people think that dissertation is just going to be an extended essay rather than writing, 3 or 4 pages of A4. I might be doing 20 pages of A4. That's not a dissertation. And I sort of help you to think about some of the research issues that you may have and that you should consider before you choose your dissertation project and topic. I also think it's important, and I had a conversation with a student recently. He said to me, look, I've done my dissertation, I'm just not sure I've done it at the right level. I think it's just a bit too much of a descriptive dissertation. Descriptive dissertation is not going to maximize marks. Postgraduate level, in order to get the best marks, they're looking for something more than you just describing a case, a process, the current situation. They're looking for more analytical skills being demonstrated, for more research skills being demonstrated. And choosing your topic and the title of your dissertation is key to you being able to demonstrate those skills. So if you're about to do a dissertation, oh God, get this book. And I'm telling you, a weekend with your feet up and a cup of coffee, going through the book, you will work out a dissertation topic, you will understand why it's important to get the right topic, you will be better prepared to start your dissertation, and I am convinced you will write a better dissertation as a result of reading the book. Right, do we have any more questions? Yes, a final question from Shane. Shane says, thanks, Suzanne. Love the comments. Will focus on my 5 W's in future. I just have one point to raise. Sometimes we have an awful lot of reading to do, and it's very difficult to take detailed notes on everything you're supposed to read. So quite often I read summaries and then I get confused. Okay, so I understand that there's a lot of pressure on law students to do an awful lot of reading, and sometimes it can become overwhelming, especially if you've got a long reading list and you've got thousands and thousands of cases of books to read. You really do have to be selective about what you're going to read. If you are going to read something, though, I would say if it's a leading authority, an important case, the main article of your classwork, it's important to read the whole article. Summaries are really great and they're a great place to start with, but there's no substitute for getting into the detail of a case. And I mean, just read the leading judgment. You don't have to read all 5 judgments. You don't have to read, if the article's 25 pages, then I'm not suggesting you read 25 pages, but there might be a summary, a more extensive summary than that head note that you sometimes get at the beginning of articles. There is no substitution for doing that deep dive reading. And if you approach that reading by trying to find your 5 W's, what happened? Who was there? Where did it happen? Why did it happen? And then what am I supposed to do? I think that you'll find that your reading is more focused. You're looking for that information as you start to read an article. You're looking for that information as you start to read a case. And it just makes it more engaging and more effective. You've got to take notes when you read. You can't just look at your screen and let it come in through your eyes and whirl around in your head and go out. It's important to take notes. It's important when you're reading something complicated, if there's a diagram, a plan, make a plan of your own so that everything works and looks, and you can work out the detail. When you actively read something, it doesn't matter that it's 4 pages or 6 pages. You will be engaged with it, and you'll find that you get to the end of it, you understand what happened, who was there, where it happened, why it happened, and you know what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to take notes and do something else with them. Okay, so let's see. We don't have any more questions this evening. Thank you, everybody that got in touch and asked a question. If you're struggling with your reading or your essay writing, then check out my book, How to Write a First Class Essay. check out 10 reasons you didn't write an outstanding opinion if you're on a law course. And if you're about to do a dissertation, then check out the LMM dissertation book, How to Maximize Your Marks. I'm Suzanne Reese, the study coach, and I will see you next Wednesday. Thank you very much for spending time with me today. Bye.